Hello, folks on YouTube. Another video of this multiplayer game. Um, yeah, I guess we are just small chat. There's nothing, I think, deeply personal information here. We were just talking about furnaces, oil furnace, natural gas furnace. There's with climate change, it would be better if most houses could be off of it, but like throughout most cold climates in the world, it's fossil fuel burning. Um, but I did realize I've been doing something in the game here, buying like rifles overseas and trying to resell them at high prices, thinking I was making a profit. No, if you're ever doing this, if you play Hearts don't do it. It's stupid. You pay factories produce base 5 output. It gets multiplied by multipliers and ran through your infrastructure. So like I lose 15% production through multipliers, and everything gets doubled by infrastructure, which means a net 70%. If I'm building with level 5 infrastructure, which means like a net 70% gain to to production, a little less because every state I do need to build up the infrastructure. Uh, when you buy like overseas equipment, the factories pay as if they none of these factors apply, just base 5 output. Uh, and so then if you buy something at one price and sell it 25% higher, which is the highest you can sell, it's like getting 6.25 per factory. And even like in my situation, I'm getting more than that per factory. Um, it never makes sense. I think the exact number I'm getting is like 8 something right now because 33.4 of this 160.9 is coming. Yeah, 127.5 from 15 factories. So you guys can do the math. My head hurts, but I think that should be a little more than 7.5. Actually, it's not quite 8 per factory. 75. Whatever. Maybe it is 8. 80. Yeah, I know it's more than 8. So yeah, I'm losing industry by doing this. So don't ever do it. Uh, I was about to encourage Joe to do it, and then I ran the numbers and I realized it would be throwing away industry. So he shouldn't do it. I should stop doing it. You're just killing your own industry unless you're like literally the United States in 1936 before you get construction one tech. That's how bad your multipliers have to be for it to be worth doing. So at the very
Dang.
beginning of the game is the US. It's the only time it's ever worthwhile. And that's because you have minus 50% factor, only 15% bonus from free trade at that point. And even if you double, you're essentially you're essentially losing 50 plus sorry 5 plus 5 times 15%, so it's a little more 15% more than 5 you're losing, and you're gaining 5 times 1.25, so it's you're getting essentially 10% more industry per factory if you do it at the very beginning of the game. Once you get construction one, it no longer makes sense, or might because of velocity, but once you get instruction two, you're definitely losing. Anyways, um, yeah, and that's for the U.S. And that's all because you have such a massive debuff to factory construction speed. For any other country, it doesn't make sense ever, and it only makes sense for the
Yeah.
U.S. in like 36, really. Maybe after construction one still, but definitely not by 37 when you have construction two. All right. You good to unpause, Joe? Or
Yeah, I'm good.
cool. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I was getting some more coffee. I just got divisions Belgium and Ireland. So they're getting rid of rifles that they consider surplus, but not really surplus because the German Spartacus League is going to pressure them to go communist soon, and they're going to either have to choose for Germany to get a war goal on them or to accept. Um, oh, sorry. I paused because I was going to pre-deploy, and I realized I probably want to wait another day till I can pre-deploy 3 divisions. Sorry about that, Joe. Um,
All good.
Although, oh shoot, I got something with my construction queue. Give me a what do you? Yeah, no, I'm fine. Okay. I want to mess with it tomorrow anyways. Had to without doing the math. Oop,
I
did I just
can recruit an operative.
Oh,
Seducer
nice.
is the only trait.
Like the best person you have available is a seducer, nothing else, you're saying?
Yep. The rest are all empty.
Eh, that's not terrible. It's not amazing. Um, yeah, I'd say do it. Um,
What should I do with them?
um, or her or him? Oh, it's a male seducer. What me is
I think so.
because
I
of
can't see portraits.
you can't see portraits for your operatives?
No, because the
Wait,
DLCs are off right now.
oh, shoot. Okay, yeah. I normally
That's all right.
there's some generic portraits like they're kind of almost
Oh,
racist stereotypes if for a lot of countries besides the ones
yeah.
with unique portraits.
Jeez.
Um yeah, you probably get some guy in like a Mexican sombrero. I'm not kidding. Um
Should I build an intel network somewhere?
yeah, you're going to want to send him or her to well, what's the name? I can probably tell if it's
Felix. Okay, so a guy probably. Felix.
Felix, like Felix. Yeah, Felix in English, but Felix, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably want to send Felix to spy in the junta so they get less max entrenchment. And I think you can only do in their capital, but that'll make it easier to take the capital later. And
Okay.
building an intel network, he should eventually, if you've taken once you get commando training, he should start getting commando XP, and he'll start getting linguist XP even before then. So he'll level up slowly, and there's a military benefit. So I would definitely send him into their capital just to build intel for now.
All right.
Um, yeah, once you're getting closer to two operatives, you might switch to somewhere you're gonna actually do an infiltration. But
Yeah.
um, yep.
What would I want to do? Maybe try to like make Peru communist?
Um,
Oh wait, I can't do that. I'm not aligned. Right? Is that how that works? You can only flip someone towards your current ideology?
unless you're Britain, Britain
Ah, okay.
has a focus that lets them choose what ideology to boost, so they can specifically
Interesting.
their not any path. If they take their aggressive democratic path, home defense, they get focuses that let them declare war if a country has more than 20% fascist or communist support. And they can boost those ideologies. There's literally a focus, and it references that they're
Oh,
basically tricking their domestic populace into supporting a war by saying this country is going fascist or communist when they boosted the
when you're
ideology.
stirring up the fascists.
Yeah, they're stirring up the
That's
fascists so they can justify invading the country and puppeting them. It's
is there a
literally what the
word for that?
focus I don't know, but the CIA has done it in our world. Like they've boosted ideologies to make it more palatable to like at least threaten to invade a country. Usually, countries will do what we want without being invaded.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure how many we bombed so many countries you never hear about. Like how many? Like 22 country times in Latin America we did it in the U.S. So I'm sure we've done
Oh,
that
I have
some
no
of those
idea.
countries.
I can only think of so many.
Yeah, it's been so many interventions, and you never read about them in the news. Like it was during the
Granada, I want to say.
Yeah, Granada's a famous one, and that was, I think, famous because it happened towards the end of the Cold War, or because it was such a tiny
Oh
country.
yeah.
And there was a U.S. medical school in the country that specifically said, "No, we don't want you to do it." After they tried to claim the medical school was in danger, like one of those
Jeez.
Caribbean medical schools. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most of these interventions happened during the Cold War. Like I don't think there have been many in Latin America since of actual bombing. Nowadays it's just like assassinations and CIA spy ops, but during the Cold War we bombed so many countries and it was like censored from the news and they used the Cold War as justification for the censorship. So,
Yeah.
but it was really about imperialism. It was about like exploiting the natural resources of like particularly Central America and Northern South America Colombia. I mean, we still do it with Colombia. We claim it's about fighting the drug lords, but it's like not really. It's about like military spending and gaining influence in the country, but that's bombing not non-state actors.
Yeah.
A lot of times we've actually bombed governments.
And you had the fucking Chiquita, sorry, United Fruit Company, like overthrowing governments for
Oh yeah, in like
bananas.
1920. Yeah, we before that was what led to the book
Uh,
War is a Racket by Smelly Butler. Like those
yeah.
kind of the 1920s invasions of countries.
Mm,
And he was the guy who got pegged for the fascist coup that tried to overthrow the U.S. government before FDR took office in 1932, like during the lame duck period for Hoover, because the business elites were so nervous about FDR's policies that they were afraid he was going to take the U.S. communist, like I'm doing in this game. And so,
yeah.
like, I mean, what I'm actually, I think of it more from a role play is allying the communists, and they eventually gain so much power that they actually just take control. But
Yeah.
they were so worried that FDR would do something like that that they tried to like carry out a fascist coup. Not all business elites, obviously, but there was a group of them, and it was called the business plot. And
Uh,
sometimes the internet was still trying to label it conspiracy theory something, even though it was like literally highly documented. And Smelly Butler played along, pretended to go with the plot, and then he took the all the information he gathered to the U.S. Congress and reported these people as traitors and like demanded that they be arrested. And but unfortunately, some of the people who were involved in it own newspapers, and so these newspapers were suddenly all doing editorials saying, "Oh, it was a joke. It wasn't serious. Smelly Butler's off as a rocker. We don't need to arrest these people." And so they didn't. The people got off.
okay.
Bush Jr.'s grandfather. So the father of a president of the United States and grandfather of another president of the United States, because Bush Senior Junior, Prescott Bush, whoever, he was involved in the business plot. So
Yeah.
these were recognizable families, like the family in charge of the Firestone Tire Corporation, the Bushes. There were like so many really like famous names that were involved in this, and they got off like and if they hadn't gotten caught, they probably would have tried to do it, and history would look very different. But
Yeah.
thankfully, they got caught. Yeah, I'm looking at the ideology map to see if why would you want? There might be countries you'd want to boost non-aligned in for some reason to destabilize them.
Probably
Brazil.
not Brazil.
It's
Wait, really Brazil? But won't that lead to Portugal reuniting their monarchies?
they're probably gonna lose their civil war, honestly. But
Really?
yeah, the Kingdom
Oh,
of
they have
Portugal is.
lost Coimbra.
Hmm?
They've lost Coimbra. Yeah, they've lost some land. It looks
Yeah,
like.
it's going to take a long time, but the Kingdom of Brazil is probably going to lose to the fascists. But actually, the fascists can do a similar kind of thing. Um,
Why do you think they're gonna win?
the fascists, because I think if I look, let's see, current wars, Portuguese Civil War, where is it? I know it's here. It is. Uh, they have. Oh, well, yeah. It says that the number of at this point, the Kingdom of Brazil has more deployed manpower and factories. It was much more even before. The estimates,
Oh, okay.
yeah, they might not win, but the generic focus tree, generic fascist focus tree is very powerful. They still haven't raised their conscription law yet, past volunteer only. Oh yeah, they'll probably lose then. Oh, the Kingdom of Portugal is also out of manpower to replace their losses. So it kind of depends on whose divisions are more over or under equipped. But yeah,
Yeah.
I the fascists I've seen them win these wars. This war is really closely matched, regardless of the manpower and stuff. It's
Okay.
gonna take a long time for the Kingdom of Brazil. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I would just you know what you could do if you want to boost ideology somewhere is you could boost non-aligned in the Mexican junta to reduce their stability and thus their factory output just a little bit. Or you could do propaganda on them to reduce their war support instability. but you have to build an intel network first before you can do these missions
Oh,
and have them be
right.
effective.
I'll just do that then. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you get up to like, high intel network strength, you can start doing I would just do propaganda because it's more effective. Boost ideology is more a long-term thing. But if you
Yeah.
do some propaganda, the 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 spy trait that they gain from doing propaganda or boost ideology, I'm pretty sure it's like the same. It's a shared trait because it gives bonuses to both missions, and that'll give him, it's like orator or something, natural orator, and he'll gain progress towards that trait. And it'll destabilize him a little, make him a little bit less capable of arming his men and raising new divisions. So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, they've already gone to extensive conscription and militarism. They're desperate for manpower. So, uh, curious how much. Geez, it thinks that they have like they could have as many as 90,000 deployment manpower. Yeah, they're arming some men for sure. Um, how many 9 build slots in Tamaulipas? Oh yeah, they've definitely been running some industrial focuses. I keep it going for a while longer, especially because of the war economy demobilization, but eventually you'll have to end it. You've cut off their
Yeah.
capital now, so their divisions should be running out of equipment, and they can't deploy new divisions anywhere that they don't have a supply route to, so they should only be able to
Oh,
deploy divisions in their capital now,
sweet.
nowhere else.
And
If
then I shouldn't kill them off until at least a while after your civil war started, right? And I've got a war justified against them.
I mean, you have like, God, how long do you have to demobilize? I think you have 120 days, so that's not long. So basically, you need to start another war 120 days. You can't even manually justify in 120. You'll have to either start the
Yeah.
justify.
So I
No,
have to wait for the civil war to start, or
no.
justify.
You're gonna want to start marching southwards, like invading Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. That's a 35
So,
day focus, and so is coastal defense plan. So you can do it 70 days after you start coastal defense plan. Basically, as long as you time the focuses right, you can end your civil war and then march southwards and avoid demobilization. You can start like you just have to like every 120 days you'll have to start a new war marching south into Central America. Like you can
right.
invade
Okay.
Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador right away.
All
Uh,
three of them at once,
no, I would do it
or
one by one,
sequentially.
sequentially, probably.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Uh, El Salvador hasn't locked themselves into. If you can get to El Salvador fast enough, they might be able to get the communist tree, and that will give them a lot like of manpower, passive manpower. Honduras and
So
Guatemala.
fight.
Sorry,
Although
what?
I don't want to fight them first, right? So should I go through fight Guatemala then El Salvador, or do I want to
Guatemala.
mainly fight El Salvador?
Okay, so I was looking at them. Guatemala has neutral foreign policy, so they'll probably reject if you try and bring them into your faction, anyways.
Oh
So I
yeah.
would invade Guatemala first, and then Honduras. Let's see how many build slots in this. Honduras hasn't finished their industrial tree, so you'd probably need to puppet them. It really doesn't matter if you puppet them communist or non-aligned, other than a communist can go war economy while at peace, and they'll have a little better trade relations with you and your communist allies later. But puppets give you very high trade influence regardless. So yeah, I would do Guatemala first, and then El Salvador, because if you can rush El Salvador quick enough, you might be able to get them in their communist tree, like get them so they can do the communist focuses, because they haven't even run collectivism yet, I don't think. Um,
Okay.
Collectivist ethos, they would get a national spirit for that the last like 3 years, so I doubt they wouldn't have done it yet, unless they ran at the very beginning of the game and it already expired. No, because three, yeah, they would have had to. That's impossible. Because they would have had to run a different focus first. So yeah, unless no, it could have expired yesterday, but I doubt it. They've almost certainly done other things. So I would go. Yeah, I would invade. You can even start this war during your civil war. You don't have to wait to march southwards and rush for El Salvador. And that
Oh
one's
yeah.
going to, yeah. You could also get Nicaragua, and they might be able to get, you might be able to get lock them into the communist political
Do
tree.
I want to start coastal defense plan after liberate the Antilles,
Um,
or do you think I should maybe get my industry a little bit? Yeah, I do have two military factories, and I don't have my military tree started yet. So
um,
I could maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure.
you're probably just gonna puppet them so they can finish their industrial trees. And if you reduce an integrated puppet, you can steal some of their military factories. Like integrated puppets give you three-quarters of their mill, so they'll usually have three from focuses and like one more if they build or you build in them. So you can get like 2 to 3 military factories from each one of these. So I would, yeah, I would, yeah, I might do coastal defense plan after liberate the Antilles because the alternative, well, there is navy, getting your navy production started with
Yeah,
military budget
that's true.
review. That also frees up your enables your war industrialist. But yeah, no, I would. You're probably right. I would do march southward. I would do coastal defense plan and march southwards because Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and then you can make them all into puppets. Um,
How would I?
but you'd have to be
Suppose I want to unite
communist.
Central America.
Hmm?
I want them to form one nation, right?
Yeah, that's I did talk about that. Any of the countries that can do the USCA, which El Salvador I think can do, if they'd be a good choice.
I should double
Or
check.
but you need a country in your faction to do that. Really, you need to.
Oh, puppets won't.
I mean, you could, but then you'd have to annex them. You have to spend 250 political power to annex them. It's better to just have an ally, feed them all the countries and wars, and then turn on them and just annex them with the peace
Oh,
conference. It'll cost you way less political power that way.
hmm.
Nicaragua is non-aligned, which and they haven't taken neutrality focus yet. So if you could ally Nicaragua, they'd actually be a really good one. And that you don't get them until it's not March southwards that lets you invade Nicaragua. That's the second it's unify Central America.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you could feed all those countries to Nicaragua fairly easily, and that would bring them most of the way to USCA. Then you just take Unify Central America, and that would give you war goals on Costa Rica and Panama, I think. Let's see.
It wouldn't give me a war goal on Nicaragua.
No, well, not if they're in your faction, it wouldn't. But that's fine because you don't. I mean, like, if they're in your faction, they're the ones who form the United States of Central America. That will save you political power. So, yeah. And give you a
Would I just
reason.
have to justify them?
Yeah, when you once you kick them out of your faction, you just manually justify on them. That's way down the line. Yeah. So there's two lines of thought here. You can either try and like puppet them all yourself, get like more manpower from colonial divisions from them because some of them might be able to get their communist focuses. I think only El Salvador and Nicaragua are the only ones that can. So you might get a little more.
But then it'd cost a lot of
It would cost a
political power to
ton of
annex.
political power to annex them, correct? Or you
Yeah.
could ally Nicaragua, declare war on all these countries via focus tree, very cheap, very quick. Um, feed Nicaragua, let them annex all of these states in the war conference. Very easy to do if you just line up divisions in the Yucatan and don't let the countries you declare war on advance. Or like Nicaragua, Guatemala, you could declare in Honduras first and then they wouldn't even have a land border, and you just guard your ports. Let Nicaragua take down Honduras, or send some divisions to help them do it to make sure they don't lose. You know,
Yeah.
oh, Honduras probably has a bigger army than Nicaragua, doesn't it?
I think they
Uh,
might be the same.
well, there's more recruitable population. The Nicaragua could have up to 17,880. Honduras could have up to 22,500 people in their army. So they have the same number of build slots. Yeah, Nicaragua's army might be, actually be smaller, so you would have to help with, like, you could provide bombing, you could provide a division or two. Um, like, you'd have to land them in Managua, or you could position them there before the war. So you'd have to give them some help, but they could get a lot of war score, and then I think you could just feed them Nicaragua in the peace deal. And after that, they should be able to do El Salvador without much help. And then you could finally do Guatemala. So, yeah, feeding, if you can faction up with Nicaragua, you can feed them. They can form the United States of Central America
Hmm.
fairly easily because they're non aligned.
What about just annexing them all and then integrating them?
It's going to cost you political power for
Quicker but
everyone.
pricier.
What?
Quicker but pricier.
It's still going to cost a lot of political power. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, shoot. So if you
Hmm.
go coastal fence plan to feed them to Nicaragua, though, they won't get their industrial trees. So maybe you do that later. Maybe you just try and ally Nicaragua for now, with the long term plan of feeding them the rest of Central America and having them form the United States of Central America. Um, that's what I
Okay.
would probably do. And then I would try and ally Nicaragua, probably the Dominican Republic, and of course keep trying to get countries in South America, in the, like, far south, Argentina, Uruguay, that kind of stuff. Because you're
Yeah.
trying to limit Chile's expansion by adding countries to your faction in the south, and Peru can already form Gran Colombia, Nicaragua can form the USCA, and the Dominican Republic can form the United Antilles once you feed them Haiti and Cuba. So, yeah, that's what I would
All right.
do, and that'll get you cores reasonably cost effectively. Uh, how close are you to bringing Argentina into your faction? You were improving relations with them.
Oh, right. 3 political power away.
You have 22 already, you're saying?
Yep.
And how much,
And I
what's,
can stop improving relations now. It's at 70, 77.
it'll decay like, I think, yeah, it'll decay like -2 a day. And I think 75 is the, how much are you gaining per day? You could let it decay for up to 1 day right now. How much, how much
1.
opinion do, you gain one a day, and how much opinion do they gain a day?
I already canceled it. I thought it
Oh,
was. I thought they lost relations slower.
how much is it? How much does it say
Oh, it's
that?
3 a month. They do lose it slower.
Oh, geez, 3 a month. Okay, yeah, yeah. You have a whole month, so you can do it in 3 days.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I thought it was three a day. It's 3 a month.
So did
That's
I. Yeah, I did 3 a
very
month.
different. All right, I'll unpause it. In like 3 days, you can invite Argentina before they flip fascist, which would make it harder. And then you
Okay.
can start working on Bolivia, I guess. So Chile won't.
Bolivia or Nicaragua, actually.
Bolivia, because otherwise Chile might try to.
Right, the wars. Okay. So I
Yeah,
should focus on Uruguay and Bolivia. Okay. All right.
yeah. On pause. They have Wargles all over the place, though. They even can get them on some Caribbean countries. It's crazy. I was looking at their focus tree, and
Yeah.
it's insane. It's super, like, aggressive, expansionist to an insane degree. Oh, I can pre-deploy a division. Hold on, I almost. Yeah, let's. I need some more. I was looking at the garrison of New York City, and I'm like, um, this is a really weak defense force. I could actually lose New York to a naval invasion. So I want, yeah, because the division of New York City is so under-equipped it only has 63 defense and 12 soft attack. They have like no rifles, and most of it they have are really outdated. So even with the amount of work they have, it's bad. Even with the naval invasion supply kind of penalties. Cool. Actually, the Newark Defense Force is much better supplied, so they'll just get an engineer brigade, probably. Uh, Philadelphia. Okay, sorry, I'm kind of half speaking to the viewers and half trying to keep you informed of what I'm doing, Joe. That you probably, I'm just saying I'm gonna have to pause again tomorrow and pause it. All right. So I know
All right.
you're waiting on the on
Commander
getting.
training is done.
Oh, you just finished it.
Yep.
Nice. Uh,
Recommend anything else?
but you just finished commando training. Well, you don't have that many civ factories. You might do interrogation techniques because you're gonna want that eventually, or you might do, yeah, that doubles your chance of capturing enemy operatives. So I would probably do
Yeah.
interrogation techniques and then I guess passive defense and then localized training centers is, I mean, it's important, but it costs a lot of factories. So in your case, I would put it off a little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do interrogation techniques and passive defense, and you gotta. I would do foreign department because you got to get working on encryption eventually.
Foreign
Probably just
department right
what
next or after?
after interrogation techniques, just so you have use of
Okay.
the SIP factories a little longer.
Yeah.
So I would do interrogation techniques, passive defense, foreign department, and then localized training centers. Or maybe instead of foreign department, psychological warfare, if you want to mess with boosting ideology and stuff on countries.
All right.
I don't know. These are some of the really high value. I
Can you
guess you're
boost
not good.
ideology on your own country?
No, you can only do in other countries, and not any that you're in a faction with either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're mostly just gonna spread communism via invasion when it comes to that. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't mess with psychological warfare really. In your case, I would at least not yet. You might need it someday to help me like do coups in Europe to like
Is
deal with the
is
Austro-Hungarian Empire. What?
are there any like focus trees that are like really heavily spy influenced? Like that like focus on flipping countries to your ideology?
Yeah, there's about three. Italy actually has a lot of ones that flip countries fascist if they
Yeah.
want to like go slow instead of invading them. And actually, Germany's new one. So Italy and Germany can both focus on flipping countries fascist,
Yeah.
like via influence. And the Netherlands actually can flip countries democratic. They get a focus that's
Oh,
pretty good at locking countries out of some of their ahistorical ones, and they can
yeah.
invite countries their faction pretty easily, and also, and then turn them into like puppets, um, and then boost like democratic support. So
Yeah.
yeah, the Netherlands has a way to flip countries democratic. Uh, and then
No
yeah,
communist one.
what?
No communist one.
The next best ones for Trotsky can do things
Yeah,
to.
that's what I was thinking. That makes
So,
sense.
okay, so some of the communist ones they're reasonably good at. None of them are all that good. The Netherlands one is really weak influence in a whole bunch of countries towards democratic.
Yeah.
But Portugal on the communist path gets some more focused ones in South America.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Germany can get some more focused ones on individual countries that give them war goals that the countries say no, and that's not really pure influence. It's boost communists, and when it reaches 40%, a civil war starts. And
Mm.
then they help the civil war, and then they can puppet the country after the civil war. Um,
Oh,
uh, Trotsky can boost ideology, but it's really more focused on giving him war goals. When he reaches 20%, he gets a war
oh,
goal. So it's more
I
like
see.
sowing fifth columnists, gets a war goal, and then he can take a decision to raise fifth columnists once he declares war on them if they share a land
Oh,
border. So that's more like fifth columnist than an actual flip.
I see.
Um, I think it's in Portugal. The United States gets a nice national spirit that helps me boost ideology if I take my ahistorical path limit intervention, which can be used to cut foot because that's basically limited to. Well, no, you could access it. So you could access it in fascist, communist, or democratic playthrough. So it's not really super focused in it. I guess in a game that where NATO forms, you get an extra operative slot. It's sort of easy to flip countries democratic with like spy operations with that. It's still kind
Yeah.
of hard, but that's probably the most viable other one that doesn't have like focuses specifically is the United States on a democratic path where they lead NATO after defeating the Nazis because the way NATO has to form is Germany has to go fascist, you have to capitulate, and the Yalta Conference you have to capitulate uh, Germany while they're fascist, and the Yalta Conference has to happen. After that, there'll be like the Brussels Conference, the Allies will disband, and then the NATO faction will form soon after. Um, it also involves Belgium, and sometimes people report it can happen even when Germany flipped or the Russians like so it. But that was apparently a bug, so it's not clear. It might form even in this game, but NATO, if the U.S. is leading NATO and took their limited intervention path, they're reasonably good at flipping countries. Um,
Belgium has a lot of states. They have 4 states in
oh
that
yeah,
little area.
yeah. I mean, it was an industrial giant for such a small area, so it makes sense. It allows them to really build up their industry to very high degrees. Oh yeah. The Austro-Hungarian Empire past can have some very focused ways to flip countries not aligned, but only specific countries in the former Austro-Hungarian Empire. So
Mm.
that's
Right.
another one that's based on influence. Looking around, I'm trying to think if there's any others that are really good at it. Sweden, in their communist path, can boost communist ideology fairly well in their neighbors. They get like a massive boost to the spy missions to boost ideology, plus they get national spirits on Norway and Denmark. So they can flip Norway and Denmark communists fairly well on their communist tree. But really, no one else. It's just those two countries that they're really focused on flipping. And
All right.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And Canada on their fascist path can try and flip Mexico fascist. In fact, if they do that, oh no, they're going communist. If they'd gone fascist, you would have
Yeah.
had to deal with a national spirit that would boost fascist support in Mexico. So
Oh, great.
no, they went communist, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But if they'd gone fascist, you would have had to deal with that. And you would have
Yeah.
had to do like
All right.
anti-fascist raids or ban fascism. But yeah, those are the focus trees. But on pause because um, where is this division deploying? Is this another New York City? Oh, hold on a second. I think I need to reinforce the garrison in Boston because it's so. Or Bangor. Yeah, Bangor. Just putting a division up in Bangor, Maine. And then some in Boston. Because it's so freaking isolated that if a naval invasion lands there, it's a victory point. So there's some local supply. I'm actually going to build a naval base to improve the local supply around it. I mean, to improve the supply around it. So, and then maybe run a railroad there. All right, good to go.
All right.
Sorry, I have all these. There'll be a few more. It'll be a week and some and change before the next one. But every time I have to deploy a division somewhere, I'm not really in a war, so it's like it's very distributed. Ah, I got the tax money back. Alabama is paying their taxes again. It's a limited time national spirit and it just expired. Nice. Yes, pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Sorry, what were you saying? I got all goofy
Oh,
with the.
I invited Argentina. They joined.
Nice. Bolivarian Alliance grows bigger every day.
Yep.
Now I would probably say Bolivia or Uruguay. I don't know which Chile can invade first, but Bolivia is obviously a neighboring country, so I feel like they're more likely to
Yeah.
do that first.
Let me see. I can keep an eye on their focus tree.
It's
Looks like
big.
yeah, they get puppet war goals at the same time. So
What focus gives them that?
secure the Brazilian border.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. It's countries that border Paraguay,
Eric.
Bolivia, and Uruguay. Well, if they don't have a land border, I would have said, but that now they could march through Argentina into Uruguay and Paraguay. So,
Oh, right. Well,
which likes you more, Bolivia or Uruguay?
actually, Uruguay. It's 45
Oh,
versus 35 with Bolivia.
all right. So I would wait, and this time I guess I would wait until you're closer to the 25, because
But
if they
Bolivia is significantly stronger.
stronger.
Yeah. I mean, just in terms of troops and factories.
Oh, you're looking at their thing that's saying that.
I mean, from what I can see, Uruguay has 1 to 3 divisions versus Bolivia's 5 to 11.
I'm looking at Uruguay's industry, and it has 13 to 16 civ as opposed to 8 to 10 for
Oh,
Bolivia.
yeah,
And
that's weird. Bolivia definitely has fewer factories than Uruguay.
yeah, and Uruguay has an actual focus tree, whereas Bolivia is just generic.
You're right. So yeah,
Uh,
Uruguay might be more important.
yeah, plus Bolivia is going to weaken. They have a bigger army, but they're going to lose men when they go to war with Paraguay eventually, if that happens.
Americanism. Oh, wait. Okay, never mind.
Just
No,
because it
that
will.
does add democracy support. Actually, it might be United States. What focus is that? Do you know what Uruguay is doing?
They have a really complicated tree. You'll have a better idea once you faction with them. So
Yeah,
they're
you're
more
right.
unpredictable. They have a much better focus tree than Bolivia, obviously, and they already have a
Oh,
stronger industrial base. So I would try and ally Uruguay.
they went Blanco's election victory,
Yeah.
which is democracy and non-aligned, it looks like.
Yep. That makes sense. Americanism, anti-imperialism, can declare war on country with the same ideology group without a war goal. Oh, so they can declare on other non-aligned countries without even having a war goal. That's nuts.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, can justify war goals against a country that has not generated world tension. So this can potentially they can go democratic after blankos and still declare war on other
yeah,
democracies.
the last one is join the Allies.
Yep. Except there are no allies. It doesn't look like they actually
Yeah.
join anything.
So they just become more democratic,
Yeah.
looks like.
So they'll eventually flip democratic, but they're for now they're non-aligned, and they like you more. So
Yeah.
yeah, I in terms of their political tree, they could also they do some things to give them fascist support, but they don't. I don't think they'll actually flip fascist. It just gives them a little bit of fascist support. It should balance out with the traditionalism. So
Did they their flag is different than it is in real life.
yeah, I think they changed it at some point. But yeah, I would. I think the slash, the red slash through it represents something about neutrality or something. And I think that I don't know. It's
Hmm.
different. Yeah, I would try and
I
get
wonder.
Uruguay. And then Bolivia, but I would try and do both of them in reasonable time. Just Um,
Yeah.
Uruguay has more economic power in the long run. They'll be a more useful ally. Plus, Bolivia can end up going to war with Paraguay. Um, and you like that's a war you don't need your whole faction getting involved in because if Bolivia is involved, they'll invite everyone else. You know. Unfortunately, both Paraguay and Uruguay can potentially go to war with Brazil, but I think a war with Brazil is going to be hard to avoid.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably.
unless you manage to invite them into your faction. So,
But even then, they can annex Paraguay or Uruguay,
not if they're in a
right?
faction with you, and Uruguay is also. Oh, yeah, they can annex via their I see.
Their focus.
Yeah, via focus tree they can peacefully annex. But yeah, I would do Uruguay. And then Bolivia, or you can do both eventually, but I would do Uruguay first.
All right.
Anything with an actual focus tree tends to be stronger in the long run than generics. Not
Yeah.
always, but it depends what the focus tree and what focus are you running right now?
And liberate the Antilles.
Oh, yeah, you're still doing that. Okay.
Yeah, 15 days or so.
Yep. Oh, news pop up Argentina joins the Bolivarian Alliance. Yep. Oh, knew about that.